Queen Anne is approaching 2 years old. We all know that the idea was to bring in some customers from Princess and Celebrity because Cunard passengers are getting older and, well, dying. Traditional Cunard passengers were the first to book, and the feedback was mixed. Is this ship the gateway into Cunard for a whole new audience, or is it too modern for Cunard guests and too old-fashioned for everyone else? Here, ladies and gentlemen, we go. Oh, there it is. It's always exciting when you first spot the ship, even if you are an idiot who started filming Queen Victoria first. I was given early embarkation, but chose the loser cruiser instead of parking this time, so I didn't arrive until 1:15. But even including a wee sit down in the terminal and a bit of a queue at security, I stepped on board at 1:42. Full disclosure, I love Cunard. I love embarkation day, I love the red bellhop uniforms, I love boarding into a grand old school atrium and gazing up at the fresco, like Dr. Grant seeing his first dinosaur. On Queen Anne, not so much. There's one or two crew in red, but you board into a corridor and that exciting first Cunard moment, well, it's just not there. I'm not going to go all turkey hair and clickbait over it, it's not a deal breaker, but it is noticeable if you're already a paid up member of Club Cunard. First things first, drop off my school bag and pick up my cruise card. Now, this is a small detail, but when you don't use lifts, you notice what the stairwells are like as you traipse up and down the million stairs every day. The stairwells are rocking. Navy blue fabric wallpaper, pale grey carpets and satin gold details. I mean, it's almost good enough to be one of those fake little rooms that you see in furniture shops on retail parks. It's that good. Apparently, the arrows on the floor point you in the right direction, but surely only half the time. Make a hot drink and put your feet up. The cabin tour is about to begin. Sleep here, write your love letters here, stick Gavin and Stacey on this if you get bored, clean clothes can be hung up here, and this is where dirty socks and pants go. This is where you wash your turkey hair, here is where you can brush your turkey teeth, and that is where you can lay a turkey egg. Cabin tour over. Like all the other chunky monkeys, as soon as I'm on board a ship, I want to eat. I did a bit of a judo warm-up in case there was any napkin throwers laying in wait, and I skipped down to deck 9 for a wander around the buffet. Well, I say buffet, but if we're accepting that Virgin don't have a buffet, then neither does Queen Anne. It's multiple stations where the crew serve you, like other ships do when there's been an outbreak because peasants don't wash their hands. If you're a peasant, book Queen Anne. The artisan food hall is spacious and bright, but it's still a bit high street fancy. The food is the best not buffet food going. The selection's not as wide as Virgin Voyages galley, but the quality is better, macarons and cakes excluded. If Virgin Voyages galley is a welcome break, artisan food hall is tea-based services. It would be incredibly tedious to deep dive every single dining venue. So, as a very tedious man, I'll be doing a separate video rating almost every food option on board. So if you're tedious too, look out for that. Full of pork belly and broccoli, I went for a waddle around the ship. There was a sax player on stage in the Queen's room, and I was not expecting to get sax on this trip. It's not as big or grand as QV, QM or presumably QE, but it's big enough to dance or eat scones in. And if a sax player is going to play sax, then this is where a sax player should be playing. Because I don't really plan where I'm going, I just bounce around like an incredibly handsome pinball. Having taken a million stairs down from deck 9 to 2, I then took another million or so back up to 12 to have a coffee in the Commodore Club. You do have to remember to use the stairs at the front when you're in the cheap seats, as the Grills Lounge blocks the route otherwise. Turkey-haired YouTubers love talking about the Cunard class system, but this very tiny ship within a ship area is still way behind most comparable lines. Anyway, I wandered around Commodore, sipped my coffee like a gentleman as a singer did Singing Right on Me, and I skipped back to my cabin to get ready for dinner. The Britannia dining room was where the majority of passengers eat dinner. Upstairs for those that have chosen anytime dining, and down on deck 2 for the sensible ones. I was early sitting, shared table, like a champ. It's not as open or grand as other Cunard dining rooms, and it's a bit more glitzy. New money, if you like. It's definitely a dining room rather than a restaurant, and it's in keeping with the modern but not modern design of the whole ship. At the start of this cruise, this was a table for 6. Like me, after dinner, all the old school brainwashed sheep walked straight to the theatre on autopilot for the show. But when I got there, I was pleasantly surprised. In photos, the theatre can look a little bit lottery-funded arts centre, but in the fabric, it's spacious, open and attractive. There's not a bad seat in the place, the only pillars are out to the side so they don't obscure anyone's view, and the seats flop down like old school cinema seats, minus the cup holders, and they're wide enough for modern bottoms. Up high there are plenty of wheelchair and carer spaces, and the tech is all up to the job. The show was a lady who was hopping from violin to oboe to piano, who does gigs for the king. Fans of tedious deep dives can look out for the full entertainment review too. I finished the day with laps of prom deck, some more coffee and a bit of aimless wandering. Up and out early to do some laps, and stood outside the main dining room waiting for them to open up. They plonked in a table on my own, looking out at the wake, which is an awesome way to start the day. Like most ships, tables for 2 aren't really tables for 2. They're for 6 or 8 with 2-inch gaps between the chairs. The couple sat to my right were German. Well, they probably still are. So I did my German on them and I asked, "What did you do at the weekend and where is the hospital?" I don't know what they said, that's literally every word I know, so when they replied, I just shrugged. They probably think I'm French. I hit the gym, full gym video also incoming, and then power slammed a couple of coffees to sharpen me up ready for archery. This was an interesting way to spend an hour. French instructor telling British focused archery jokes to a German passenger. It reminded me of watching Inception. It wouldn't be modest to tell you that I hit 3 bullseyes with my first 3 arrows, and it also wouldn't be true. I was the only one that never missed the target though, and I did get a couple of 10s. It is an extra cost activity, but it's only cheap. I was booked in for lunch at Sir Samuel's. Now, in a weird move, on QA they have kept some familiar Cunard names but completely changed what they are for no actual reason. I can only assume Branson has become a shareholder. Anyway, this is what would usually be called Veranda. Nothing other than the branding has changed. It's about half the price at lunchtime, and I pre-booked about 10 years ago, so I got a wee discount for that too. Heather Small was the first Insight lecture that I went to. I didn't really know who she was, but I recognised the name. She's the singer from M People. She looks about 40, but to have been the singer in M People, she must be 80. She cleverly compromised by claiming to be 60. Not really my kind of music, and no scandalous revelations during the Q&A, but it was a pleasant way to spend an hour. Coffee, wandering, get ready for dinner. This was the first sea day, so it was the first formal night. Now, I'm all for observing the dress code. I don't wear Crocs and band t-shirts to the MDR, but I'm not doing eyes wide shut or fancy dress. It happened that the theme was black and white, which most men would be wearing by accident. I'd taken a dark blue dinner suit. But fortunately, I'm a hottie, so nobody minded. Our table mates were a group of ladies, all between 60 and about 100. Mainly lovely, but not without their challenges. More to come in the dining review. Obviously, after dinner, I found myself in the theatre. This time, imagination. Some retro futuristic singing and dancing, with a spaceship that broke midway through. Don't worry, they got the RAC out and the show continued about 5 minutes later. My next stop was Bright Light Society, a little cabaret bar offering a mixture of paid and included shows, and it's a new addition to Cunard. Presumably, they will all be getting one during the next refit. This was a no-charge show called Away We Go. A shorter show, generally meant to give you a bit of a flavour of what to expect and nudge you towards booking a paid show, which I did, and you should too. I went a bit wild this trip and mixed up my drinks routine. This was the first of about, 600 tomato juices that I slammed on board. Day 3 breakfast saw me setting up camp in Carinthia Lounge with my laptop. Now, this is not the Carinthia Lounge to anyone who has been on other Cunard ships. It's Sir Samuel's. But of course, Sir Samuel's is veranda, and veranda isn't even on here. It's an open-plan coffee shop sat around the atrium on deck 3. The stuff is mainly on decks 1, 2 and 3. Never saw any performers here, but there is a Western saloon-style self-playing piano nearby, which losers like myself will be excited by. I bashed out my laps and I headed to the gym for an hour. Like all top athletes, I went directly from the gym to the burger bar in the pavilion for a greasy lunch. It looks great up here. Victorian fancy, a pool that you can almost swim in, you, not me, obs. A bar up high, a bar down low, and a big screen so you can, most of the time, work out what the awful echoey sound booming out actually is. I passed by the purser's desk on deck 1. Hopefully this isn't a line of people waiting to remove gratuities. It probably is, but I didn't hang around long enough to find out, so these are Schrodinger's scumbags. This is the games room where, in addition to playing dominoes and strip ludo, they also put out these fun little pictures that they've cut into 1,000 pieces so that you can take a piece home as a souvenir. I always do. I set up camp for the second time that day and bashed out some incredible laptoping here in the drawing room. It's just a quiet little sitting area with some coffee table books and comfy chairs. The portrait of Sporty Spice is a bit weird. At dinner, one lady had disembarked in Hamburg and Ursula had joined us. Obviously, when I heard her accent, I asked her what she did at the weekend and where is the hospital. I never think one man on stage should be the show. So I ditched some guy doing musical theatre numbers to see the ship's company, who should have been in the theatre, doing a Songs of London show in the Queen's Room. I killed time for an hour browsing the souvenirs, the watches, the cheap tat, the expensive tat, and then skipped along to Bright Light Society for Noir, my second hokey murder mystery in as many cruises. Bright Lights is separate from the rest of the entertainment crew. A group of 5 performers who double up on characters when needed, with slapstick Morgan Wise costume changes. 2 ladies doing proper singing and acting, a dude doing cheesy comic relief, and a couple of brilliant dancers who pull very intense concentration faces. It's different, it's good, and you should try it. I psyched myself up for the 10-deck trek up to Commodore Club and rewarded myself with a coffee and a tomato juice. I was up late doing chatting and wandering around with an American that I met in Bright Lights, so I slept in. I went 3 for 3 with Carinthia breakfast, or this time I suppose brunch, whatever an open sandwich at 10 AM is. Slammed a black coffee and headed to the theatre for an insight lecture with the former head beefeater. No, not the guy who runs those cheap restaurants. The Billy Big Banana of play and dress up at the Tower of London. It was a bit dry, the sort of thing you see on a school trip, and honestly, I regretted not having 2 coffees. I didn't realise on my first visit that once through the door, you turn right for Not Veranda Steakhouse and left for Ajiwa Japanese. This half is around half the price at lunchtime too. You'll have to see the dining video for all the details, but what I'll give you for free is when you go, have the whiskey bar. I finished lunch just about in time to meet the American lady for afternoon tea. The 5-hour queue for a sandwich and scone is normally reserved for sea days, but because it was A, freezing in Rotterdam, and B, QA has a smaller Queen's Room, it was packed. The American lady must be part British because she'd been sat there for the past hour to get a table. We were joined by a curious couple, A normal human man just enjoying his holiday and happy to do a bit of chit-chat, and his wife, a hyacinth. I ship you not, she actually said the words, "We are Regent Oceania people," and hinted that Cunard was beneath her, before accidentally revealing that they love Ambassador and P&O, and would love to do the Azamara F1 trip that I did in the good old days. The afternoon tea itself was better than I had had on Cunard for quite a while, but weirdly, they just put out the same incorrect menu every day, so it was a bit of a builder's lunch lucky dip. I gingerly carried my big round belly around a few laps to make a bit of room for dinner. By this point, I'd basically been stuffing my fat face since 10 AM, and first sitting at QA is the earliest on any ship in the universe. 5:30. But I'm not a quitter, and I powered through. Our table of 6 had become a table for 7 by now. Another German lady travelling solo had asked to join us, and I got the maitre d' to shuffle us around to fit another chair in. I asked her what she did at the weekend and where the hospital was. Obs. A bewildering journey from my dining table seat to my theatre seat followed. The ladies all wanted us to go to the theatre together, but most walked too fast for the 93-year-old. Some ran ahead, some disappeared to the loo without telling anyone, and when we did finally get there, some of the ladies wanted to sit on the front row, and some wanted to sit on the back row. It actually started to get quite fractious until I suggested, why don't we sit in the middle so nobody's happy, which they all agreed was the best solution. The bass tones were that night's show, a sort of swing-adjacent barbershop quartet with 25% off. I avoided any further shepherding drama by sprinting out like Linford Christie as soon as the final curtain dropped, and I slotted myself into a booth in bright lights for Let There Be Love. A couple of quick laps, then away to Commodore Club for coffee and tomato juice. I closed out the day with a gym session, in a gym that was officially closed, but unlocked, so fair game. I woke up on day 6 feeling stuffed after yesterday's medal in the Food Olympics. It turns out that I lied when I said I wasn't a quitter, so I skipped breakfast and I started my day with a couple of black coffees in Carinthia. There wasn't much going on during the day. The highlight seemed to be the Beefeater man talking about punishments in the Tower of London, which presumably is mainly watching his lectures, and an art lecture about Banksy and brainwash that I'd already sat through numerous times. Though would you believe it, the art gallery actually has a super rare buy it whilst you can Banksy Lady Di £10 note. Like the last 100 ships I've been on. I am starting to think they might not be that rare after all. So I actually left the ship, which I don't often do. I did the same thing that everyone too tight to pay for an excursion in Rotterdam does, and I went for a walk over the bridge, around the market hall and to the cube houses. People, by which I mean me, are always shocked when they actually go to the cube houses, and it's pretty ghetto in there. Anyway, it was chilly, so I was soon happily back on the ship, working my way through the gym, laps and coffee routine before dinner. I was booked into Tramonto, the specialty Italian restaurant, and I did briefly wonder if there would be a battle at table 369 without me there to referee. But the ladies were all still alive when I returned the following night, and they still had all their teeth. Well, the same number as they had the last time I saw them. I mean, one of them is 93, so... The show was a dude named John Martin. Now, there are comedians who do cruise ships, Esther Manito, Luke Conran, Tony Vino, and there are cruise ship comedians, Manuel Martinez, Kev Orkian, and, having sat through it, I'm sad to say, John Martin. I won't even hint at what I thought of his show here, so if you want the full verdict on this hack, dated, and I'm not saying stolen material, but I have heard a lot of it before, and read some of it in Christmas crackers, you'll have to look out for my entertainment review. Seeing this comedy sucked the enthusiasm for the night right out of me. I went directly to bed, I did not pass go, and I did not collect £200. I was up early, and for a wee change, I had a walk around the open decks up high, and then dropped in the Pavilion Wellness Cafe for breakfast. I'd been looking forward to this and pre-cruise had expected to eat here most days, but the menu's pretty limited and not that exciting, so I wasn't a regular. I did enjoy it though, and as a reward for having a healthy breakfast, I also had some ice cream. I spent most of the day wandering around from coffee to coffee and doing some top secret cruise tube work on my laptop. There was a mild panic when I realised it was already the last day and I hadn't been for fish and chips and sticky toffee pudding in the Golden Lion. So I did that. I was tempted by an Elephant Man thing in the theatre early afternoon, but I was a bit worried that it might be a stripper, so I gave it a swerve. Dinner was good. The ladies all swapped numbers and the German ladies seemed quite genuinely sad that they'd be spending the next 110 nights without the rest of us. I mean, mainly me, I assume. The final show of the cruise was the ship's company, loads of white people in their 20s doing a Songs of Motown show. Bright Lights had abandoned its commitment to enjoyable entertainment and stuck John Martin on stage, so I skipped that and headed upstairs to pack my bags, which were outside my door with 3 minutes to spare. And I went on an Elton John farewell tour of the ship. One last coffee, one last tomato juice, a first visit to late night snacks. I ended up sat at the next table to a really lovely couple who I'd spoken to in the security queue on embarkation day and a couple of times here and there through the week. As I've said in previous videos, it could be that I was tricked into thinking they were lovely, because what I really mean is they asked me lots of questions and they made appreciative noises at my answers. The guy is super into vintage trains and has bought a Pullman carriage to refurbish. And he told me that I'd inspired him to book more cruises, so if I don't see him again at the Spotgate Inn, then I'll look out for him on board. Last night on board what might be my new favourite ship. I rarely want to leave the ship in port, even more so when that port is Southampton. I did my laps, enjoyed my breakfast in the MDR, and wiped away the tears as I saw my normal life waiting for me at the bottom of the gangway. The guests on board seemed no different in terms of age to any past Cunard trip. I was towards the younger and foxier end. There were no shortage of octogenarians and at least one 93-year-old. I'd say that the guest list probably averaged very slightly younger than usual for Cunard and very slightly older than the industry in general. There was probably a dozen kids on board. Like the rest of the fleet, QA isn't really family focused. There is a kids club, but I imagine working there is basically like stealing money. There's still plenty of ballroom dancing and lectures, but the Queen's room gets used day and night for other performances and music too. And Bright Light Society is a rocking addition. This ship is still very Cunard, which is fine by me. I love Cunard. But it's just a little bit less Titanic for newbies. I loved it. Okay, the money. I paid £994 for solo occupancy of a standard inside cabin. I didn't tell them about my Care Bear. That was the fancy fare, so included my choice of parking or transport. I jumped on the loser cruiser this time round. Internet clocked in at £89.64, which I had to have, otherwise both of my subscribers would have missed my videos. My bar bill consisted of £93.52 for the alcohol-free drinks package. That covered my coffee, tomato juice, a Diet Coke and an ice cream. And there was an additional £43.62, which covered whatever other people were drinking when I was doing chatting on them. I'm a sociable guy. I'm not. I booked speciality dining in advance, so Samuel's for £23.36, plus lobster tail, which was an £11.49 upcharge, Ajuar, also £23.36, and Tremonto for £13.35, with a £6.51 upcharge for my main. Archery cost me £15.32, as did Noir, the show in bright lights. Gratuities were £91.17, which gives us a grand total of £1,420, 66p, or £202.95 per night. Poor people cabin and cheap time of year, but even so, that is a bargain. 7 nights on Cunard's newest ship, done.